Good evening, good morning, and good afternoon, folks. Welcome to episode 0 of Tales Under a Broken Sky. I am your host, Keith. Some of you might know me as LooseVerse from Twitter, Instagram, and my woefully underused Facebook page. Episode 1 is going to launch right on the heels of this little introductory episode in perhaps the next 2 to 3 days. But I wanted to take some time to introduce myself, this show, and tell you all, hopefully there are some of you out there listening to this, what this little project is all about. I've always been fascinated by storytelling. Not just writing, but the actual physical act of telling tales. Granted, for the most part, for me anyway, this has always been to a large but rather limited audience, consisting of me, myself, and the voices that lurk in the back of my head. But there is something wondrously primal about speaking the words to a story out loud. It moves the story from paper, out into the open, into the world. And sometimes, it even feels like the story has taken on a life of its own. I've often wondered if it was simply the act of speaking or the process of sharing that imbued the spoken word with such magic. But there is something inherently different about words that are meant to be spoken aloud. Every time I write a story or a piece of poetry that I intend to read and record, it takes on a different shape and form from the compositions I write with the primary intention of being read on paper. I thought for a long time that it was probably the more casual language I tended to use. But I'm not so sure anymore. There's a difference in the flow between words, the cadence of the lines, and even the white space takes on a different role. No longer just visible breaks on a page meant to be interpreted by the reader, but something real and tangible, with the power to be a comforting friend, a builder of tension, or an unrelenting tormentor. But this is all really a very long and philosophical way of saying that I like to tell stories, and sometimes it's even nice to share them with people. The idea for Tales Under a Broken Sky first came to me a few years ago when I decided to produce a spooky little short story for Halloween. I had a short concept piece I had written for a Twitter writing prompt, just passing away a rainy afternoon, and I thought it would make for a fun little tale to celebrate the occasion. I did a quick bit of work to edit and expand out a few sections that were probably overly condensed due to Twitter word limits. And once I had the story fleshed out, I recorded the reading and then decided to add in some little bits of soundscape for a bit of fun and to get a bit more practice with digital audio workstations, plugins and samples, as I was really only beginning to dive into them at the time. I enjoyed the process and the finished product so much that I really wanted to go ahead and make more. But I wasn't too sure how or where I would distribute them or how to even go about doing it. This kind of idea sat on the back burner in the back of my mind for a few years while I spent my time working on some longer form projects and some poetry I was putting together for a collection. But here I am, finally getting around to this. The current plan is for fortnightly episodes. I am a one-man band here, so I need a bit of time to write, edit, record, edit again, do some post-production, compose a bit of background music, so on and so forth. Although I hope to get up to weekly releases eventually as things kind of progress. I do want to keep doing everything by myself though. It's not really a control thing. If we want to be really gritty about it, it's more of a budget thing. But I also really enjoy seeing the process through from start to finish. My journey learning about audio production, basic music composition, photo and graphics editing, and just everything involved in the process has been very interesting and fulfilling. And I never really need much of an excuse, perhaps just an idea and a glass of writer's tears is nice, to sit down and pen a story. So for better or worse, this is all me. Warts, bad notes, dissonant chords, mispronounced words, and all. The stories I plan on telling, hopefully hinted at by what I consider deliciously creepy intro music and artwork, will be mainly supernatural horror, dark fantasy, and science fiction. Many of these will be standalone tales, although I'm working on a couple of things at the moment that I would like to do as longer form serialized stories, one chapter per episode format kind of. This seems to be, I suppose, a popular thing at the moment between Audible's adaptation of Neil Gaiman's Sandman, which is fantastic, and probably my favourite podcast at the moment as well, The Magnus Archives. But my interest in kind of the serialized longer form format of telling stories kind of goes back a lot further than that, kind of when I first started reading the classics 20-25 years ago. in particular to probably my favourite book of all time, Wilkie Collins's The Moonstone, which was actually originally produced as a serialized piece in magazines and journals. So this kind of format has always really interested me, and I'm really curious to see what I can kind of do besides just sticking with short stories. I'm also considering bringing in some poetry as well, perhaps every few episodes, devoting one to classic horror or gothic poetry, either an individual poet or maybe kind of a few pieces from a specific subgenre. I think it could be really interesting to do some live readings of them and bring those older inspirations of mine to life. Another thing I do like seeing is when writers add context to their work. I've never really been a fan of mysterious black boxes of creativity, and I really enjoy reading or listening to writers explain their inspirations and motivations. So what I plan on doing is giving a brief postscript at the end of each episode, a quick note on inspiration, where the idea came from, how it developed, what the story means to me. It won't necessarily be me telling you what to think or how to interpret my writing, more like me telling you what I was thinking as I worked on the piece and how it grew, developed and evolved from whatever seed was planted in my brain that day. But I think that's it for me for now. I've rambled on here long enough. The first episode of this show will drop in the next few days, as I said earlier, but for now, stay tuned for a brief teaser of episode 1, Spiders. Enjoy. It had happened only a half-mile from his house, so it wasn't long before he slowed to a crawl and leaned forward over the wheel, peering into the circle of light cast by his headlights. His heart was like a drum in his chest now, and he couldn't remember when he had taken his last breath. Nothing. The road was clear. He had felt the bump just after a turn-off to a nearby farm, so he pulled in off the main road when he reached that point and stopped the engine. He took the torch from the glove box and started back up the road. He flashed the light from side to side nervously as he moved. He couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. He felt his back tensing against imagined fingers trailing along his spine.